Hello and welcome to Stoked Curiosity's Quarantine Quality Podcast with your host Stan.
And me, Adam. This time it's special, season 2 of Quarantine Quality Podcast, and as you can see we have visuals.
Oh, fascinating, amazing.
If the edit works.
Yeah, if the edit works. You might notice I'm a little slouched down. That's because that's the only way to get me in shot. I have no room here, but I think it looks pretty nice, all things considered.
Just a quick plug, you can now watch the first episode of season 2 on our YouTube channel, or you just go to our website and you'll be able to hear it, listen to it on Spotify, Google Podcasts soon, hopefully, and a bunch of other platforms.
What an amazing selection for people to use. That's great.
Only the best quality from stokedcuriosity.net or .com, whichever you want to use.
So, Adam, what are we talking about?
Okay, so now we plugged each other in.
Yeah, now we've plugged each other to a ludicrous degree. Now that you all know what to do after this is all over, and we expect you to do it, we are going to today be talking about, once again, COVID conspiracies.
Yes, but this time it's a little bit more in detail, isn't it, Stan?
Spreading across the internet, and particularly on Facebook, is the claim Dr. Fauci co-wrote a paper claiming that masks killed more people than the Spanish flu itself during 1918 and 1919. This is, of course, nonsense. The paper does not mention masks once. But where did the claim come from? One of the first times it was mentioned was on Twitter by Dr. Colleen Huber. The Twitter post mentioning Dr. Fauci's work was also used to advertise a now removed paper from ResearchGate, trying to prove mask use was ineffective. The paper, called Masks, False Safety and Real Dangers, Part 2, Microbial Challenges from Masks, was written by her, Dr. Boris Bonovoy and Maria Chrysler. It's filled with misuse of statistics, debunked by its own sources. Today, we're going to be tearing into the paper, showing its misuse of information, and delving into the reasons why it was written in the first place. And to further on that, Adam, what do you have with peer-reviewed articles to talk about?
Yeah, so what I brought up is I did an interview a while back talking to a professor, should I say, named James Rikus. He's a professor in interventional radiology on the dangers of basically non-peer reviewed academic resources, and the dangers of people giving DIO numbers to these papers so that they can later be cited. So it's just this circle of citations that are not peer reviewed.
Okay, so to start off, we're here to talk about the idea that Dr. Fauci created a paper that claimed that more people died of mask use than they did the Spanish flu. Now, for reference, the Spanish flu killed 50 million people and lowered US life expectancy by 12 years. So, mask use has to be pretty terrifying if it's worse than that. Or if a majority of that was caused by masks. It's funny how doctors and nurses somehow have been able to stay safe from this massively health-affecting item that they've been wearing for years. They somehow were able to ignore the thing that caused the life expectancy drop by 12 years. I mean, maybe doctors are using a different type of mask, Adam. What do they know that we don't? That's all I'm saying.
I know, right?
Yeah, these damn doctors. But basically, we, like all things we do in this podcast, found out and got motivated by this idea once we got it as a negative reply from a video we did on Facebook. This is a Facebook reply we got. How about the paper Dr. Fauci did on bacterial pneumonia? Bacterial pneumonia. How the fact that most victims in the Spanish flu died because of masks. Right? So, did Dr. Fauci create a paper where he claimed that the pneumonia from masks killed more people than the Spanish flu? No. In fact, if you were to look up that paper, which there should be links for in the description, and you just word search mask, you will find that masks do not even appear once. Not once in the entirety of the paper does masks get mentioned. right? And the fact check ends there. So when you look at factcheck.org or something like that, they will usually just say, nope, that's where it ends. But, you know, I like to go a little further, dig a little further. You know, it stoked my curiosity, so to speak. And I did a bit
play
of...
on words.
No play on words, yeah. Is it a play on words or is it just directly referencing the channel? I don't think that counts as a play on words.
Oh, okay. Well, nice usage, let's say.
Thank you.
I liked it, is what I'm trying to say.
God, Stanley, God, you can't just take the compliment. See, this is what we do on the channel. We question everything, even compliments from our co-hosts.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. So, where did the idea that this really start?
Was it with a tweet, if I remember, wasn't it?
It was
Colleen Huber.
It was, yes.
Huber?
A tweet that claimed that Dr. Fauci said this. Dr. Fauci neglected to let the public know that he was the co-author on a paper that found this. 1918-1919. Pandemic deaths were mostly from bacterial pneumonia. The unmasked buried the masked in the Spanish flu. What did people in masks die from? Bacterial pneumonia. Who knew this and wrote about it in 2008? Dr. Anthony Fauci. In actuality, what she was doing was she was using that quote. This whole thing that started it was to advertise people to a paper that she wrote with Boris Bonnevoy and Maria Chrysler. The paper tries to claim that mask usage actually is ineffective, right? This is an incredibly interesting thing because if you actually look at the paper they linked, the paper never shows that it killed more people than the Spanish flu. So even the claim that they make on the tweet is so absurdly ridiculous. I don't even know where that came from, right? I'm more confused by that than anything else. So the paper that they used basically tries to prove, while looking at the statistics of people that have been wearing a mask and the statistics of total deaths, that there is no correlation between wearing masks and people dying. Now, Adam, you've looked into this paper, haven't you?
I have taken a look at it, yes.
Taken a sneak peek.
Yes.
Can you tell me some of the problems that you think I might have with this paper?
Well, if you want to jump straight in, the first thing that completely caught my attention was the fact that it cherry-picked its data. To an unbelievable degree. I don't know if you want to start with this, but the first thing that I remember thinking is that there is no way you can make such wild claims in this paper from a 7-day study? They got data for 7 days on
Here's the interesting thing. Let me look up the exact days. It was close to 7 days. It was the 6th to the 12th. It was 6 days.
6 days.
It wasn't even a full week. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm laughing ahead of myself, but you have to understand why this is so funny. What they did is they took a paper from the Council of Foreign Relations, which conducted a survey on the amount of people that wore masks. The percentage of people in the population that wore masks, and it took from a wide variety of countries. There's a lot of countries in here. I just want to make it clear we're not laughing at the Council of Foreign Relations. They did nothing wrong here. They were just taking a look for that day, how many people for those 6 days, the percentage of the population that were wearing masks. Now, there's a bit of a problem here. Because the geniuses who wrote this paper goes, oh, well, if you look at the COVID deaths and you look at the percentage of population wearing masks, you'll see there's no correlation. Even the Council of Foreign Relations research says that you can't do this because there was a different percentage of people already wearing masks and not wearing masks before the pandemic even started. Even the Council of Foreign Relations specifically mentions East Asian cultures and the tendency to wear masks. Mask usage was already in play in these cultures and might have had some sort of effect on the statistics. Even if we were to take away that, we don't know why the percentage of masks were that high for those 6 days. Is it possible that governments could have started a system alerting people to wear masks because the cases were so high? What if, for instance, in the United Kingdom, there was a long amount of time where there was discussion of whether some masks were effective or not? We now know that they are effective and we use them in a public space. But if there was a discussion about if they were effective, then would that, and there would be a huge portion of time beforehand where we weren't wearing masks. And we now may have a high percentage, but then that seems insane to compare it to an East Asian country which already has a high percentage of masks. Furthermore, it is ridiculous to try and compare some of these countries and the percentage of people wearing masks and the deaths, because they have wildly different population densities. Now, population densities are important because the more densely populated your area is, the more easy it is to spread a virus. One more thing, and this is very important, the number of deaths could also have been impacted by a number of things other than masks. What percentage, which one of these countries went into lockdown? What one of these countries, like I said before, has a population density that allows to spread easier? What percentage of these countries, for instance, if we're looking at deaths, there might be other things like obesity that might affect this.
That's what I was going to mention as well.
Yeah, exactly. None of these things are even mentioned in the paper.
I would like to add as well the fact that they completely ignore, like you said, other factors that would increase the death ratio that a country may see. Like you said, there's no mention of population density, but looking at the study, I didn't see any mention of population age. It could be an age where pensioners are more likely to live in.
Exactly.
Right?
There's so many factors, isn't there? So many factors they don't even put on the paper. It's insane.
Exactly. It is insane to look at one piece of data, to look at the mask usage and then at the death rate of a country and then say, yeah, these are correlated. It makes absolutely no sense. There's just so many wildly different things that could happen, that could mean a reason of why that country has a higher death rate. Oh, you know what bothers me as well is the use of graphics here. The graphic 1, I don't know how to read that. It makes no sense. It's all over the place.
What's your problem with graphic 1?
Let me try and decipher. Yes, I remember this. Oh, this is something that really bothered me as well. So it seems like with graphic 1, they're trying to put the point, or like make the point that the higher the mask usage, the more deaths there will be. But their own graphic disputes this, because it almost seems like random values going up and down. So, for instance, at let's say around 5%, you have 600 deaths per 1 million, right? Then at 20% or 22 or so, you have over 600 deaths per million, right? Technically, it has increased, but let's go to around what looks like 90. It doesn't give me the exact number. It just says above 80 and underneath 100. So let's go with 95% usage rate. Guess what the deaths per million are? It seems like it's 0. Go slightly back. It looks like it's around 50.
I think what they're trying to say is that no, you know what? You're absolutely right, Adam. This is spot on. What they're trying to say is, look, here's proof that masks aren't that effective. Well, hold on a sec. Didn't you try and claim that the influenza, that apparently from masks somehow caused more deaths than the Spanish flu? And now you're going to show this chart that shows that it's actually been very effective in some nations.
Exactly.
Insane. Oh my God. Some of the articles I'm looking at here. Here's an article. Here's an article there. Your corona mask really is gruesome. That's an article they link in the thing. That sounds like a great article, my friend. Yeah, I want some really peer-reviewed academic papers. Oh, your mask is gruesome. That seems like a very, very good mask. Oh, here it is. Right? It's long been disputed how effective lockdowns are by historians. And do you want to know the paper? Do you want to know what they reference?
Go.
It's a pandemic of socialism by the American thinker. Guess when it came out?
When?
August 24, 2020. So it wasn't long been disputed. It seems, in fact, it was disputed as the moment the pandemic started was when it started being disputed. Excellent. You love to see it.
Excellent. Yes, that seems like a reliable piece of academic research.
You love it. Tasty and academic.
Good old academia.
And guess where they got the statistics for deaths, Adam? Do you know where they got the statistics from deaths? Because this is the killer one. This is the one that makes it the cherry on top. Adam, can you tell me where they got the statistics for deaths?
Where?
From worldmeters.com. Now, Worldmeters does take statistics from other areas, reported cases from other countries, and puts them on, but you could not go to a university or go to like a peer-reviewed person and say, here are my statistics. Where did you get the statistics from? Oh, I got it from Worldmeter. Right? You need to check everything. You can't just go to Worldmeter to find just a
Official sources, always official sources. It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Also,
even if they did quote from official sources, Worldmeter probably links the official sources that you could look at. So go to those official sources instead of being lazy and just find a bunch of statistics you found from Worldmeter. You guys are supposed to be doctors. But you know what, Adam? You know what? When you look up their things, are they doctors? Yeah, well, maybe. But you know what they're also doing? You know what, Mr. Do you know what Mr.
Boris?
Yes, Boris Borovoy's doing. Boris is a libertarian who spends his time online talking about how masks are tyranny, and sharing posts from a pickup artist called Roosh V about how wearing masks is like being a Nazi. It's like with the Right Rose group. These people are obsessed with making anyone who thinks maybe you should just wear a mask to protect other people around you is the same thing as being a Nazi. It's incredible.
It's absolutely incredible. Do you wanna hear the quote from the paper from 2020 of historians debating it?
Oh yeah, go on, give the quote.
Yes. So the pandemic of socialism, right? This is what the paper says. One historian writes, the quarantine, isolation, and mask wearing failed to diminish the spread of the influenza. Instead of the practices likely increased fatality and had disastrous economic consequences. The medical policy of 1918 was contrary to the medical science of 1918, and the destructive patterns of quarantine, isolation, and mask wearing were largely abandoned. End quote. Then continues, the harm extended to the next generation. Subsequent health outcomes included increased prevalence of heart disease in infants born in 1919. Now, I don't know if you picked up on the issue here, right? But there is no data to back it up. There's this one single quote from this very biased news article or paper.
There's no remind you data. That, of course. Did he say that the heart rate? What was it? Heart rate in infants in 1819 got worse.
Yes, increased prevalence of heart disease in infants born in 1919.
And the pandemic happened in 1918.
Yes.
So were the infants wearing masks, or were these like I don't know how 1 year of wearing masks would cause a worse heart rate in infants. Okay, so Adam, is he implying that because the mothers wore the mask, it somehow made the infants have worse health?
I assume so. Here's the thing, I don't know, because this is just the one line that they added before moving on to the next section.
It's only a year, right? You would have thought that the harming effects would take longer to notice. Also, do you want to know what? I just thought about something, Adam. I wonder if there was something else during 1918 that was happening across the world that could have maybe affected children's heart rates. I don't know. This is just a little theory I've got rolling in my head. You know? I know, just... Could there be anything? I can't think of anything. It must be the masks.
Has to be.
What else could it be?
No, but here's another. I wanted to mention this a little, just a little later, but like I'll say it now, right? the thing that bothers me about this as well is that it doesn't say anything else. It just says that line claiming that there was a increase in heart disease in infants born in 1919, and it cites it. There's a citation. I went down to the citation, clicked on the link. It's a pay-per-view. You can't actually look at the paper without paying for it. So aside from only dropping that one line of something that would be vital to your argument, without any data whatsoever, I can't go and check the source. The source itself...
Unless you pay for it.
Unless I pay for it. The source itself also doesn't even mention masks in the abstract or the title. Here's the thing that also bothers me. Sorry, I said I said abstract. It is not even mentioned in the abstract. There's no abstract to the link that they put on. If you click on the link, it does redirect you to a website which does put on peer-reviewed documents, and this may be a peer-reviewed document, but there's no abstract. The only title or the only information I have to go by is the headline: the 1918 influenza pandemic and the subsequent health outcomes, an analysis of SIPP data. That's all I have.
It's not a paper looking into the use of masks because, Adam, what they have likely done with that paper is they have said, well, people wore masks in 1918 and the heart rate of infants got worse in 1919, therefore it must be masks. That's all they've done. The paper they're using as proof probably doesn't even reference masks. You're right. That's crazy.
That's what I mean. It's like, if that is actually the case, if masks did actually increase it, why would you not incorporate the data in your article? It's because it doesn't. They almost copied the headline. Also, I wanted to mention, this is about the dude who wrote about the pandemic of socialism, how he just says the practice is increased fatality, but there's nothing to back that up. I can't see. I only see a quote here, and it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll believe you.
A quote from a historian who has a book called The Pandemic of Socialism, I might add.
Yeah, a very unbiased person,
yes,
I bet.
A very good source to use. And, I love it. Keep in mind...
These two paragraphs are crazy.
And also, you've got to keep in mind that it mentions, like, a discussion among historians, and they only reference one historian.
Yes.
That's great. That's love. You love to hear it.
You love to see that. Oh, it's hilarious. Everything about this paper is it's just a rant. This whole paper is a massive rant with references. Just a massive rant from people who, if you look at their Twitter pages, they all link to natural medicine papers or something of the sort, or if not natural medicine papers, then linking posts by Rushvi telling people that wearing a mask is pretty much the same as the Holocaust, right? I can't really see the difference. They're pretty much the same thing. I'm agreeing with you. It's pretty much the same. How could it be different? Someone wear masks. What could the possible difference between those two things be? Yeah, I guess every world nation deciding maybe that you shouldn't cough on a grandma and take her life is the same as the Third Reich. Yeah, those are pretty similar things, I think. Very similar. Listen, when the government has to make me wear a mask that makes me slightly uncomfortable for 2 minutes while I walk into a supermarket, that is fascism. The 13 tenets of fascism, authoritarian control, a love of nationalism, and making me wear a mask as I go into a supermarket. All equally terrible things. But I think this is a good bit to segue into your discussion, Adam. Okay. How do we spot a fake article that's peer reviewed, or if even the opposite, how do we know that an article has been peer reviewed? Okay, so the best thing you should do, and this is coming from the interview I mentioned earlier with Professor Jim Reekers, which, as I mentioned, will be in the bottom of the description. There's 3 things you want to do when looking at papers, right? You want to look at its hypothesis. You want to look at the study design, whether it was randomized. Is it a randomized controlled trial? Is it not a randomized controlled trial? And they specifically pick in certain patients, which there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but that's something you should look at. And you should also look at what the outcomes are, right? So what is actually studied and what is actually reported. So I think the example he gave is that if you're studying on the quality of the water, don't give me results on the swans, right? Or ducks. Tell me about the water. So in the
Yeah,
how
what
can
if
we
those ducks and swans are really dirty though?
maybe I don't know. dirty swans,
Those dirty swans are poisoning the waters.
vicious. Well, am I allowed to say? Wait, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
I'll put a little bleep in.
Vicious creatures, I'd say.
I'll put a little bleep in that makes what you sound even worse
Okay.
than what you actually said. What could he have possibly said that needs to be censored?
But yeah, so what this professor's arguing is that, be careful when you read a paper, right? But the main issue he has, and he brings out in the video, is that he calls this silent, very dangerous revolution, is that while it is great that we have a massive wealth of information, it's a lot easier for academics to put stuff online and you to find potentially academic information for free without having to pay, like one of the resources that this other paper was using, is this group of non-peer reviewed papers. Nowadays, you can upload anything online and it doesn't necessarily have to be peer reviewed. And the problem that we have now is that we have a lot of non-peer reviewed papers which are being cited by other non-peer reviewed papers because they can get a DOI number, which is a way to reference back to the original paper that you're talking about. So it's just kind of circle of continuous potential misinformation. And the problem that we could see now, or that he's arguing that we see now, is that with social media, things get multiplied by thousands. And we get people like anti-vaxxers and these anti-maskers. They just take one source and then which may not even be right, but then we have confirmation bias and a whole of other things going into play, and then there we go. Then we have this mountain of just wrong information, which is this exact paper. This is exactly what happened to this paper, and Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, to be honest, I was like, these two topics that we randomly picked out actually kind of linked up quite nicely.
They link up so nicely, and here's the thing that I liked about this topic as well. About the interview when I did it for this other newspaper, interventionalnews.com, is that it is completely different. But this professor of interventional radiology or vascular surgery talks about the same thing. So this is very clearly an issue in many places. It's crazy how naturally they link up together, and I got the information from two different places. This paper we were looking at because of this podcast and a video that we will eventually make, but then I just happened to have this other interview that just linked so nicely, and it's because this is what we see now. This is the world we live in.
So how do you get was it a DOI number?
Yes.
Yes, you just have to reference a peer-reviewed article, and that.
No, so you just have to get on Google Scholar or one of these open researching platforms. They give you a DOI number.
And that's how, and it's like a tag that's like, oh look, we have a DOI number, that must mean we're peer-reviewed. But you should never be confused that just because something has a DOI number necessarily means that it's...
Exactly.
I don't even know if this has a DOI number, to be honest. I never checked. I didn't even really need to look if this had a DOI number to know that something was off, though.
Yeah, this may be at an extreme level, to be fair, because it wasn't even accepted in ResearchGate.
Yes, that was the you're right. That was what I was trying to remember the name of before. ResearchGate was the journal that rejected this.
Which there's nothing wrong with ResearchGate, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with like not having a peer-reviewed paper, because not everybody will have the capacity to get a peer-reviewed paper. Like our papers for university were not peer-reviewed because they can't be. But it's about being careful.
I like to think they're better than this.
Oh, I would like to think my papers were better than this. But again, we're not doctors, so, you know.
Yeah, we're not doctors. Yet.
Yet.
My dream, Adam. And I think everyone's had this dream. You're in a bus or a train. Someone's like, oh, And what's wrong? And they fall to the floor. And then there's like, quickly, is anyone here a doctor? And like, I wake up, I walk up, smile. I'm a doctor. It's like, great, of media. And then I walk off the bus or train.
The person's having a heart attack, and you're like, yes, I'm a doctor. And then just instantly start talking about media ethics and like why we should be careful with what media we consume because it could be paid by some other advertiser and they could have different interests.
I can explain to them, yeah, look, listen, we did a really good podcast on just why somebody claims to be a doctor doesn't necessarily mean they're a doctor in medical professions. Now you've learned a little something. It's like, this woman's dying. It's like, yeah, but
you should specify what kind of doctor you want. I'm a doctor.
You said doctor.
Yeah,
I'm a doctor. I came up to you. Oh, that's the dream, Adam.
As that person's just having a heart attack. You know, actually, yeah, you should have called for a proper medical. Looks up to John, you disappointment. You couldn't even get a doctor, right? And dies.
Sick. We'll wait for that day, Adam. Man, I know it's not just us, because I know for a fact there were some university lecturers who are history doctors who are like, they've been waiting for that day too. I think everyone who's ever had a doctorate, it's not medical, has been waiting for that day. That's a dream. That's one of those dreams, like, maybe this one's a little less evil. Adam, have you ever hoped that, I know because you're not even bilingual, because that implies to you're multilingual. Have you ever hoped the day somebody would, maybe you go to Japan and somebody says something bad to you in Japanese, but you understand enough Japanese to turn over to them and just start talking Japanese. You don't reference whether that you knew they said something bad about you, but you let them know you know just enough Japanese that it leaves them wondering if they if you heard what they said.
Yeah, that would be great. I feel like
that's the dream.
I feel like that has happened to me. Not quite as in like someone saying something bad about me, right? But genuinely, someone just started speaking Spanish. I think it was while I was working at the call center. Someone started speaking Spanish because they couldn't remember the word, and I said, "Oh, is this it?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." Well, how could you? Yeah. No, that is definitely the dream. I want someone to insult me behind my back in a different language that I understand and just turn around.
I just to end this, did anybody else have any goals? Let us know in the comment section.
Definitely.
Definitely. Did anybody have any goals that they set for themselves for the pandemic? I'm kind of pleased. I'd somewhat learned how to animate, but one of them I never just took up on was learning Spanish. Partly because,
I guess my goal was the like similar to you, but the Japanese one. And I have not done well yet.
Yet. That's the attitude you have to have. Let's see. Tell you what, Adam, I'm going to learn as much Spanish.
Well, this was fun.
Let's see next week if I can have a quick intro convo in the beginning of the podcast. Let's see if I can talk Spanish for a bit.
That sounds good.
Yeah, let's see. I'm going to train for that. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for listening or watching, depending on what platform you are on. There you go. You're on. That was fun. I hope you enjoy this rant on this paper. This great paper. Great paper. Absolutely stunning. But yes, thank you for watching or listening. Like I mentioned, go to stillcuriosity.net.com and they'll have a bunch of different articles and different videos. Almost through my hard drive there. Different articles and different videos on the website. And if you want to subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, YouTube, or Google Podcasts, or plenty other different platforms, then please do so. It'd be great.
Yeah, we won't stop you.
No, definitely not.
We'll even encourage it.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And have a wonderful day/night/evening, depending on when you are watching this.